Hello, K1 crew. I have a story to read to you today. It is called Elizabeti's School. This is a realistic fiction story, so it is a story about things that can really happen. It is written by Stephanie Stuve Bodine and illustrated by Christy Hale. Taking a look at the cover here, do you see who Elizabeti is? That's right, she's right here, and she's the main character of this story. This story is about Elizabeti's first day of school. Elizabeti lives in Tanzania, which is a country in Africa. How might she feel about starting school? Think back to when you were starting school. How did you feel? Do you remember we read the first day jitters story? And we realized that there were so many different ways to feel on your first day. You might be excited, you might be a little nervous, and that's okay. So as I read, I want you to think about how Elizabeti's school is the same as, and also how it's different than, your school. Elizabeti's school. It was Elizabeti's first day of school. She tried to sit still while Mama braided her hair, but she was so excited that she had to fidget a little. Do you fidget a little bit when you get excited? I know I do. Also, if you're feeling nervous, you might fidget too. Mama finished and Elizabeti jumped up. She twirled around and around in her new school uniform. She bent down to feel the smooth surface of her shiny new shoes. No more bare feet. Elizabeti smiled. School must surely be a very special place. Why does she feel like school must be a very special place? Let's think about this. It says she's wearing her uniform. A uniform is something that you wear to school. If you go to certain schools, you have to wear a uniform. If you play sports, you wear a uniform to identify you as part of your team. Certain jobs, you wear a uniform. If you're in the military, you wear a uniform. If you're a police officer, you wear a uniform. And it says here that she's not having any more bare feet. So think about that. Over the summertime, you might walk around in your bare feet a lot, or you might wear your flip-flops a lot. And then when it's time to go back to school, you might even start school with a brand new pair of shoes. That's very exciting. But they feel very different on your feet than your flip-flops did. It was still too early to leave for school, so Elizabeti wanted to play with her cat, Moshi. Elizabeti held a string for Moshi to chase, like she did every day. But this time, Moshi didn't want to play. I wonder why Moshi didn't want to play. Finally, it was time to go. Elizabeti waved goodbye to Moshi. She hugged her rock doll, Eva, and her baby sister, Flora. She let her little brother, Obidi, give her a sloppy kiss. Then Mama patted Elizabeti on the head and told her and her older sister, Pendo, to be good as they headed out the door. Look, her older sister is wearing her uniform too. At first, Elizabeti walked very fast, but she slowed down as they neared the school. Why do you think she slows down as she nears the school? What does that tell you about how she might be feeling at that point in the story? Pendo took Elizabeti's hand and led her into the schoolyard. There were boys and girls everywhere, laughing and yelling and singing. All the noise made Elizabeti feel shy. She looked back the way they had come and wished she had stayed home. Looks like they're playing soccer. But then Elizabeti's friend Rahele grabbed her hand and led her over to a group of girls kneeling on the ground. They were playing Machara, a game with rocks. Elizabeti smiled. She liked to play with rocks. So that made her feel more comfortable, huh? I've never heard of a game called Machara, but let's take a look and see how you play the game. Elizabeti watched as Rahele dug a small hole and filled it with stones. Then Rahele threw a rock into the air and with the same hand picked out a stone from the hole. Again, with the same hand, she caught the rock before it hit the ground. The next time, she picked out 2 stones and then 3. Elizabeti had started to dig a hole when the teacher rang the bell. Sounds like she was ready and comfortable to start playing the game too. This game actually does sound familiar now that I've heard how to play it. It sounds like playing the game Jacks, where you throw or you bounce a ball and you try to pick up the jack before the ball bounces again. And then you bounce the ball again and then you have to pick up 2 jacks and you continue playing it that way. It sounds very similar. Elizabeti filed inside with the others. She sat on a bench near the front. The teacher began telling them all the things they would do, but Elizabeti had trouble paying attention. She wondered if Flora missed playing with her or if Mama needed her help cleaning the rice. The other children started to copy the letters the teacher had written on the blackboard. Elizabeti started to copy them too, but she couldn't help wondering if Obedi wanted her to take him for a walk or if Eva was feeling lonely, sitting in the corner by herself at home. Elizabeti wondered if they missed her. She was certainly missing them. Why do you think Elizabeti is having such a hard time paying attention? Do you ever think about other things when you're in school? I know I do. Sometimes your mind starts to wander and you think about other things in your life besides what you're working on at the moment. After their lessons, the children all went outside. Some of the older boys played drums while the girls danced. Elizabeti didn't know the dance, but one of the older girls took her hand and showed her what to do. Elizabeti liked it so much she didn't want to stop when it was time to go inside again. Back in the schoolroom, the teacher taught Elizabeti and the other young children how to count to 5. Moja, mbili, tatu, ne, tano. What do you think those words were? Yeah, that was counting to 5 in Swahili, which is the language that they speak at her school and in her country. Remember, this takes place in Africa. Try to say the words with me. Moja, mbili, tatu, ne, tano. After a few times, Elizabeti could say the words on her own. Later, the teacher read a story. After that, school was over. Elizabeti and her classmates stayed to work in the school's garden. Elizabeti helped pick onions and tomatoes. On the walk home, Elizabeti's new shoes started to hurt her feet, so she took them off. The warm dirt felt wonderful on the bottom of her feet. Think about that feeling of relief after you've worn a pair of shoes all day long, especially new shoes. They're not broken in yet. Kind of cramps your feet, and then that nice feeling of relief when you take them off at the end of the day. At home, Elizabeti was so glad to see everyone that she hugged them all. She changed into her old clothes, which Mama had washed and dried. They were warm from the sun and felt much softer against her skin than the stiff new school clothes. Elizabeti helped with the rest of the afternoon's chores, played with Eva and Obidi, and helped Mama give Flora a bath. Elizabeti was so happy to be home, she decided she didn't want to go back to school. Elizabeti went to find her cat. She had looked almost everywhere for Moshi when Mama finally called for her. Elizabeti ran into the house. Mama was on her knees by Elizabeti's bed, smiling, and Obidi was jumping up and down beside her. Elizabeti peeked under the bed. Moshi was curled up, sleeping. But she wasn't alone. Tucked in beside her were several tiny newborn kittens. Are you surprised? Maybe that's why her kitten didn't want to play with her. Her cat didn't want to play with her in the morning. That's a good reason. Elizabeti knew better than to disturb them, but just then she thought of something. She pointed at each kitten and said, Moja, Mbili, Tatu, Ne, Tano. Mama was surprised and hugged her. Elizabeti knew how to count. That night, Elizabeti counted the kittens for Baba and wrote some letters in the dirt to show what she had learned at school. Mama and Baba were very proud. Baba must be her dad. Pendo and Elizabeti danced, and they all laughed when Obidi tried to copy them. She must be dancing the new dance that she learned at school that day. Elizabeti started to show Mama how to play Machara, but was surprised that Mama was already very good at it. They played until it was time to go to sleep. Elizabeti climbed into bed and held Eva close. She looked at her pretty school clothes hanging neatly by the doorway. She thought about how good it felt to show Mama and Baba the new things she had learned. Elizabeti shut her eyes and listened to Moshi's steady purring as a kitten mewed every now and then. Elizabeti decided she would give school another try, but home was surely the best place to be. So why does Elizabeti change her mind about going back to school? Remember, first she missed her home so much. She wanted to stay home. What was it that made her change her mind and decide that she really does want to go back to school? Okay, could it be that maybe she was so happy to show her family all of the new things that she was learning? She even got to share in that new game that she learned with her mom. That could be it. So let's think. I want you to be thinking about ways that your experiences in your school are the same as Elizabeti's, and also how your school and your experiences are different. There's definitely some ways that we're the same and some that we're different. Thanks for listening. Bye.